Any of you that have watched the reptile room tour that I did last week will know that something was going on with the line day geckos, and that I didn't want to do an update on it because it was quite serious what was going on, and I wanted to leave it until things played out a bit before I talked about it. But now in the aftermath, it is time for an update. So before we jump straight into things, I do want to give a little bit of an outline of what these geckos are and what I'm doing with them for anybody who isn't familiar with them or with my channel. Now, last year I did get a vivarium from DMS Vivarium. Dale of DMS Vivarium made this for me to review, which I will be doing in later months. And it's also got SkyLight LED lighting for the plants that again I'm going to review for them. But for this enclosure, just a couple of months ago, in April I think, I did get a 1.1 pair of line day geckos from Global Geckos. Primarily, these are going to be pet animals, but also with me getting a pair, I did have future intentions of breeding them. Now, a couple of months ago, whatever, or a couple of weeks or something, I made an update video on these, and you might remember this picture from that video. Now, I have never ever bred anything before in terms of reptiles. I mean, I've bred dubia roaches and stuff, but that's kind of not really the same. And so looking out for the signs of breeding and stuff, I'm not particularly familiar with, especially as the line day geckos, Phelsuma lineata bomatokensis, or that's a subspecies I have. They aren't kept particularly commonly, and the information that you get online tends to just be information ported from websites about giant day geckos and goldust day geckos, so trying to find out exactly what's going on with them at any given time is quite hard. Now then, to set the scene of what happened, I was actually out for a couple of days at open days for things which I won't go into, and I came home and the female out of the pair was nowhere to be seen for about 24 hours. Now, this isn't too unusual. These geckos are quite shy. If you walk past the tank and stuff, they'll hide. Some days they're bolder than others, especially around food, but that's reptiles for you. But yeah, after she was hiding and she was fine before I left, I was a little bit concerned. So I'd been back for a day from where I'd been, and I kept looking out for her, and then all of a sudden, in the morning, on last Sunday, I did see her just peeping out very tentatively, and she was very, very dark in colour, which, for anybody who keeps reptiles, you will know that most, lizards, do change colour to some degree. Leopard geckos do, bearded dragons do, crested geckos do, and the line day geckos are no different. So when I saw that she had such dark colours, when these tend to be emerald green and red, that really was quite surprising, and I was quite worried about her. Almost immediately after I spotted her, the male of the pair saw her as well, and this is when I saw that things really were not quite the same, because they just started fighting like Spartans straight away. The male shoots out and tries to grab her, and they're launching around the tank. The female's quite a lot smaller than he is, so he was absolutely dominating, and obviously this wasn't right, because just a few weeks ago they'd been getting on really well, so I was quite concerned, was something different happening? And that is when it all kicked off. After the first bit of a spat with the male, the female just hid behind a leaf and stopped, and I thought that she was having a poo, is all I'm gonna say, but rather than, if anybody knows reptiles at all or birds, you'll know that they have two parts to the feces. The brown part, which is digested food, and the white part, which is the urates, which is basically wee, but solid. And I thought the urates were coming out first because there was this white mass coming out, and I kept watching, and no brown was coming out, and more white was coming out, and the white was perfectly round and very big. And then I realised that she was actually laying an egg. So I had expected that she'd been gravid, but I had no idea that she was this gravid or that she was gonna lay. That hadn't crossed my mind. Honestly, those little pics I put up of like thinking I could see eggs through the stomach, I thought it was wrong, to be honest, because the male's got similar little dots, and after she's laid she still has them, so they must be organs or something, they aren't eggs. But regardless, she was gravid anyway because she obviously laid. Now, with this first egg, it did look okay. I honestly, for the first clutch with reptiles, you tend to expect that it's not going to be fertile, but this one looked alright. Now, it was just the fact that she seemed to lay it under stress that I was a bit worried about. But either way, she moved away from it a minute later, and I thought that that was going to be the end of that. Of course, though, that was not to be the end of the story. The male went after her straight away as soon as he saw her again. She's looking quite, bad at this point, and she launched to the front of the enclosure and laid another egg there. And it dropped down the entire front of the enclosure, didn't roll down the glass, it literally dropped. And that was automatically a goner. It looked yellow, it looked infertile, it just wasn't good. So, I mean, I did try my best to film this egg laying stuff, but it was all, they were darting around so fast and moving tripods and stuff, it just didn't happen. So, unfortunately, I didn't get it on camera for you guys, but I did see all the events unfold myself. Now, going back to what I'm talking about, obviously, well, one of the eggs was a complete dud, but I was really worried about the female because she was being chased so much, her colours were so dark, laying the eggs is really costly to her body, and biologically speaking, and so I was really worried about her, and it did look like she'd had a bit of a calcium crash, because they do have some calcium sacs on the necks, and they were really quite small, and also the tip of her tail was quite kinked, which is a sign of dehydration. So I was really in quite a big dilemma of what to do. The obvious option would be to separate them, but it's not really as simple as that for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that how on earth am I going to catch one of those geckos in there? They're so fast and it's so well planted that, you know, getting them out is just going to be next to impossible. I mean, there's cork bark. You'll remember when we set this up last year, that I do have cork bark silicone to the back of the enclosure, and they can run through that. So if they go behind there without ripping the cork off the background, there's no way I'm getting them. Then also, once you've got a compatible pair, which these two are compatible, meaning they don't fight for the most part, reintroducing them can be risky. So if I were to separate the male, say, and put him back in a few months, then you could see each other as purely rivals and fight to the death. So that is a risk in its own, and then also there's the stress it would cause. So if I'm going around trying to catch the female or the male, then they're darting about, that extra stress put on the female, who was obviously under enough stress already, there's a risk that it could have killed her. After a bit of thought, the best thing that I decided to do was just to leave them for a while, because what I was hoping was that the male was just interested in breeding with the female. Perhaps now she was gonna lay those eggs, she was getting ready to mate again, and that was why he was chasing. So I thought, give it a day or so and hopefully things will calm down, and that is exactly what happened. The next morning when I came in, the male had stopped chasing at all. The female was looking a lot better. I'd left a calcium dish out and made sure to give the enclosure a good spray so she could have a drink. So she was already looking on the mend, and everything was seemingly back to normal. Now, as I say, my primary concerns were regarding the female at this point, but what about the eggs? Well, the first egg that got laid looked okay, but the male ate it straight away. So that was the end of that. If that was ever going to hatch, it's too late now because the male ate it immediately. So next time if she lays eggs, I will be collecting them and covering them as best I can straight away. And then the second egg, that got eaten as well, but that was a dud anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But what matters to me really is that they're now getting on fine, and the female is actually looking really good. I've ensured that she's had plenty of access to food and calcium and stuff over the past week, and she's been taking it absolutely fine, and to be honest, she's kind of looking better than she did before she actually laid the eggs. So I am really happy with that. Now, of course, if they've mated, which I think they probably have, given how the chasing's completely stopped, she's likely to lay again soon. Now, I don't know if she's laid before. It's possible that she's already laid since I've had her. Because, you know, it's just so quick and the eggs have been eaten or something. But either way, I'm keeping an eye out, and just in case she is going to lay more eggs in this season, I am going to make sure that I do pile her on with lots of nutrients and stuff. But honestly, I'm not worried about her because of how good she's looking and how quickly she's recovered. So, to summarise all of that from what we've gone through in this video, the line day geckos have been having a bit of excitement recently, and things have been changing. You know, this is a big learning curve for me because firstly, line day geckos aren't kept tremendously commonly, and the information about them is somewhat scarce. You know, it is out there, but it's hard to find. So this is like a big experience for me, and I do hope that you can take something from it as I can. So anyway, like I say, I do hope that you have enjoyed this video. Now, in other news, you might notice that a certain bearded dragon's enclosure is looking slightly different, and there is a reason for that, which I will be discussing next week, because I have done something a bit different with Char's enclosure. Anyway, after this bit of a rambly video, this is the end. I've been JTB Reptiles, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.